To you once again on the Robert Sungenis live program. This time for Wednesday, the last day of March, the 31st of the year 2021, in the year of our Lord. As you know, this program is set aside for you to ask your questions, give your comments on any topic whatsoever. And I, as my role as host of this program, will endeavor to answer your questions to the best of my ability using our Catholic faith, our tradition, scripture, our fathers, the medievals, the popes, the councils, the saints, the doctors, the theologians, the encyclopedias, and just about anything I can find to help you walk away satisfied that your question has been answered. We come to you 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., but that is not locked in stone. Sometimes we go over. Last night we went to 10 o'clock. Tonight we may go even further. Who knows? I enjoy answering your questions, and if I'm not here for any reason, that means something came up that I was not able to get out of. And we do have a few rules here. First, it's not a rule, it's a practice. We, since January, have been covering at least one important topic of notice at the top of the program for maybe 15, 20, 45, sometimes even an hour it takes to get through that one topic. And unfortunately, it doesn't leave too many minutes left for questions, but these are important topics we need to discuss. And tonight, we're going to be covering the blowback from the CDF statement last week regarding the Vatican not recognizing the legality of homosexual civil unions. It's amazing we have to actually talk about that topic as if, it's we're all biting our teeth wondering what the Vatican's going to do. This is the reason we're covering this. Usually, the church was doing the right things all the time. We would just say, oh, of course the church is going to do the right thing. And you'll see tonight why we even say that, okay? Because there's many in the church who disagreed with that statement that the CDF made. So now at the first, I want to say that if you have a question, okay, now this program, and I have to keep saying this, is made for questions, not chit chat. Okay, I love your chit chat. You got great chit chat, but this is not the place for it. This is the place for questions. So if you have a question, I want you to put the word question in capital letters before anything you write on the board. And that way I'll be able to notice that it is indeed a question that I can go to right away. Okay. Last night we had a rip-roaring time, didn't we? Talking about to wear a mask or not wear a mask. To be or not to be? That is the question. And I think I got my point across. There were some who agreed, some who disagreed, which is okay by my book. That's what this is all about. As you know, when you come to this program, you get my opinion. I'd like to call it an expert opinion, but I'm not an expert on every topic, that's for sure. But I do endeavor to give the right answer as I see it from all the experience, knowledge, wisdom, book study, and just common sense that I have gained over the last 40 years. There is something to be said for getting older. So here we are. And so let's look at some of the blowback. And you would figure that, all the liberal factions of the Catholic Church are going to come out and raise a big stink. And man, I'll tell you, liberals, they're something to deal with. They, on the one hand, they have these huge hearts. And that's why I guess they're likable in that sense. They want to give everything to everybody. That's why they're liberal. That's why they're called liberals. But more than often, their brain doesn't engage with their heart, and they give away the wrong things. That's the problem. It's not that they don't want to give things to people. That's quite evident. But sometimes they give the wrong thing. And when it comes to morality, many times they give the wrong thing. They think they're helping people and giving them freedom and all, but no, they're really tearing apart the society. And our Jesuits, as has been the case for many years now, are in the leading faction of those who, bark and cowl and laugh and carry on whenever the Vatican issues something that's going to keep everything normal. They're out. They have an agenda. So, yeah, don't be surprised if you see comments coming from them along these lines. Now, who is it? It was Father James Martin, isn't he? He's the editor at large of America magazine, the Jesuit magazine. And either he himself is one of those fruity guys, or he condones it or promotes it, or one or the other, all over the place. And we don't see the Vatican shutting him up. So there's probably a lot of people at the Vatican who are on his side. So I'm very interested to see what America Magazine is going to come out with for their April issue on this CDF statement. But, people started with the Pope on this particular venture. And the Pope said this. This is after the CDF gave their statement. Okay, so everybody, because the news articles said that Pope approved the CDF statement against homosexual unions, but there was no word from the Pope. There was no actual something you can sink your teeth into and get the Pope's actual thoughts on the matter. But the Pope over the weekend or so said this was March 21st. So that was a Sunday. So that was after the Vatican's, the CDF statement. So the CDF statement must have been a week prior. And excuse me while I drink my coffee. I didn't get to drink my coffee before I came down, so you'll have to excuse me while I indulge. All right, that'll get me going. And the Pope said, many people, often without saying so, implicitly would like to see Jesus, to meet him, to know him. It means sowing seeds of love, not with fleeting words, but through concrete, simple, and courageous examples, not with theoretical condemnations, but with gestures of love. Then the Lord, with his grace, makes us bear fruit, even when the soil is dry due to misunderstandings, difficulty, or persecution, or claims of legalism or clerical moralism. Don't you love it? Now, what does that apply to? Well, it's supposed to apply to the CDF statement, but so who's the bad guy here? There's two. The Pope made a dichotomy between theoretical condemnations as opposed to gestures of love, or soil that is dry due to misunderstandings, difficulty, or persecution. Legalism, clerical moralism. as opposed to, I guess, wet soil that makes trees grow and flowers grow and all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a division here between the good guys and the bad guys. And it's ambiguous enough that, nobody can accuse the Pope of pointing his finger at the CDF. But I don't know who else is making clerical decisions on whether homosexual unions are valid or not, besides the CDF. So they're the only targets that seem to be applicable here. So is this the Pope's way of either condemning the CDF statement or sidestepping it, or, criticizing it for its bluntness, or we don't really know. Okay. Hard to make a judgment. But you know what? We know what the Pope didn't say. Okay. He didn't come out and say, wow, what a remarkable instance of courage of the CDF to come out in the climate that is in the world today and put their foot down, draw their line in the sand, that homosexual unions will not be tolerated in the Catholic Church. Wow. For such a time as this, they have been called. Nothing like that. Okay. If anything, we have a finger pointing at the CDF for at least the way they said it, if not the contents of what they said. If indeed this applies to the CDF statement. So, Pope Francis is always doing this kind of thing where he's looking at the harshness of the law. And a lot of liberals do that, They think the law is just too harsh. Don't do this, don't do that. Don't do the other thing, or you will be condemned. That's the way they look at the law. Yeah, I guess in a sense the law can be harsh. I guess if we didn't have such a hard time obeying what the law says, and we did everything by grace and freedom and volunteerism and altruism and all that, wow, wouldn't it be nice to have a world like that? An ideal world where people didn't need a law. They just did everything naturally. Everything that was right and good, they just did naturally. No pressure from the law, no necessity, no trying to be better than someone else. Just naturally, they just did it. Wouldn't that be nice if we had a world like that? And somebody may say, well, isn't that what Jesus wanted? Didn't he give the Sermon on the Mount and said, you have heard it was said, you shall be, but I say to you, you shall do this and that and make it better? Yes, he certainly did. Okay. And that's what he wanted us to strive for, to do things altruistically, to try to get to that ideal state. Okay. But Jesus was no fool. He knew that there had to be laws because he's talking to the people who wanted to be altruistic. And that's what, maybe 15, 20% of the world. The other 75 to 80%, hey, they're just not in the ballpark. Okay. So Jesus knows that. So there's going to have to be laws for them to keep them corralled. And if they disobey those laws, they're going to suffer the punishment. That's why St. Paul talks about we're under the power of the government and they don't bear the sword in vain. Okay. So, yeah. But even that small percentage of the world that wants to be idealistic and altruistic and, even they sin from time to time. As Jesus reminded us, and as 1 John reminds us in practically every book of the New Testament, if not the Old. The Bible's basically just a book of sinners. All the stories that we have in the Old Testament, you know how they're all picked out? Yeah, when the person sinned. That's when the story's made about them. Yeah, how would you like that for your biography? Only the bad things that you did are recorded. Okay? You start from Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel. You know, there are exceptions, you know, like Abraham sacrificing Isaac. Okay? Things like that. But my goodness, except for the rare exceptions, the Bible is just full of people wanting to be idealistic, but falling far short of it. Story after story after story. Until, of course, the Redeemer comes and tries to set things back straight again. And yet we've been 2,000 years since then, struggling still. Okay. So this whole idealistic thing, you know, it needs to be adjusted to reality. Okay. You know, and then the bottom line, of course, is this: either homosexuality is good or it's bad. And if it's bad, it's really bad. Okay. So that's the $64,000 question today. Now, with what, close to half of the clerics in the Catholic Church either tending to or being in homosexuality, yeah, we got a problem. We got a problem. And sometimes that spills over to pedophilia. Yeah, we got a problem. Big, big problem that nobody seems to be doing anything about, unless, of course, the newspapers start spreading stories that leaked out from somewhere they shouldn't have leaked out from about children being molested and things like that. Oh, and now we all pay attention. But then we all go back to our corners once the children are out of the way, and we can, as adults, be consensual in our homosexual activities, and nobody really gives a hoot anymore. Okay, do they? You heard too much about that? Not really. Okay, so when the CDF, who's not run by the Pope, so to speak, they made a decision. Maybe that's the very reason they didn't consult the Pope. They wanted to get it out there front and center before he had a chance to nip it in the bud. Who knows? Because what he says here, he's not commending them for what they did. He's subtly saying, oh, you're a little too harsh and judgmental, and you have clerical moralism and all this kind of stuff. How else can you take that statement? If it doesn't apply to the CDF, who does it apply to? Okay? This is why Father James Martin and the Pope get along so well together. So, yeah, we got big problems. So here you got the first blowback, I would call a subtle blowback from the Pope himself. And then there is another statement. And guess who? Guess who? Guess what group of bishops this might come from? I'll give you, it's in Europe somewhere, and I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. Yeah, Germany. Yeah, you were probably guessing, well, maybe France. But Germany, no, at the head of the snake is the German bishops, as usual. These guys have lost the faith long time ago, and now we're just seeing the fruits of it. And one of them is the bishop named Johann Bonny of Antwerp. And he says, I feel ashamed for my church. I mainly feel intellectual and moral incomprehension. I would like to apologize to all for whom this responsum is painful and incomprehensible. Their pain for the church is mine today. Oh my gosh. So yeah, you see and they're what? 230 bishops in Germany that came out steadfastly against what the CDF said. So yeah, we know where the devil resides. So there you have it. Now I didn't see any statements from the other side. congratulating the CDF on their bold move to condemn these homosexual unions. Well, actually, the CDF didn't condemn them, did they? They just said they can't be recognized in the Catholic Church. That's a very PC way of saying that they're condemned without using the word condemn. But at least they took that step, so you got to give them that credit. And so what I was saying was, we don't hear any news about the other bishops of the world congratulating the CDF on making this statement. Everybody seems to go to their corners when something like as controversial as this is coming to the surface. All we hear is the blowback, and there's more to come, believe me. But I just thought I'd mention that little bit that I heard today. We also talked, was it last week, about somebody asked a question about Mary being the mediatrix. And I answered that by giving the minimalist view and the maximalist view, which is pretty much where it stands, and it has been at that impasse for probably 100 years or so. Because you would figure after the first Immaculate Conception, 1854, then you have the Assumption of Mary in 1950, and you figure, okay, what's the next one? And that's the fifth Marian doctrine, or it would be. The Mediatrix of all graces would be the fifth Marian doctrine. So that's being tossed around today, and the Pope made a statement, again, very subtle, very ambiguous, but we who are in the same circles know what he's saying, okay? I don't know, have you ever watched that program, Fool Us, about the magicians? Penn and Teller are the MCs. And so the magician does his trick. I just love to watch these guys. The magician does his trick, and Penn and Teller have to admit whether they have figured out how he did his trick. And if they can't figure it out, then the magician gets a trophy called a Fooled Us trophy that Penn and Teller give them. And so they get famous now because they fooled Penn and Teller. Penn and Teller, by the way, if you don't know, are famous magicians that have been around for years on the Las Vegas Strip and elsewhere around the world. But if you ever watch the show, not that it's a regular diet of mine, but I have seen it. And so the Penn and Teller are trying to explain to the magician after he did his trick that if they know how he did it, they use code language. And so they'll say a couple of phrases, and in magician code, I guess, it sounds normal to me, but the magicians can pick up on this. And then the lady there asks the magician, well, did Penn and Teller find out how you did your trick? And the magician will go, oh yeah, they figured it out. And Penn and Teller didn't say anything about how he did his trick. And yet, so there's this code language that both are using. One knows what the other is saying without everybody else in the audience knowing what Penn and Teller were saying to the guy. And this is a lot of the kind of the speech you get from Pope Francis. But we who know him and the whole situation know what he's saying, although other people in the church don't. What they think what he's saying is so beautiful and so flowery and so uplifting and so, magnificent when he says it. But we who know better, we know what he's saying. Okay. Now that applies to the previous statement that I just said, that Pope Francis said. When he's talking about the CDF statement that denies homosexual unions, and then he starts talking about the Lord with his grace makes us bear fruit, even when the soil is dry due to misunderstandings, difficulty, or persecution, or claims of legalism or clerical moralism. See, we know what he's doing. He's pointing the finger without pointing the finger. And the audience doesn't really know. Oh, they look at these words and go, oh, how beautiful. Yes, claims of legalism and clerical moralism and misunderstandings. Who wants misunderstandings? Or persecution? Who wants that? You see, so they look at his words on the top surface and don't go an inch beneath that to find out what's he really saying. Okay. And you get this a lot in politics. You get it now a lot in religion, you know, where you just use the PC language and, you know, your enemies are going to read between the lines because it's a game everybody's playing. But out in the open public, to the majority of the people in the Catholic Church, the 1.2 billion, the Pope's words are just lovely. They just are lovely. Who could disagree with them? You see. So along those lines, when the Pope said regarding the Marian doctrine, or the Marian Mediatrix of all graces, belief among some in the Catholic Church, he says this: Jesus extended Mary's maternity to the entire church when he entrusted her to his beloved disciple shortly before dying on the cross. And if you don't know already, that was the Apostle John. But as a mother, not as a goddess, not as co-redeemer, as mother. Okay, so there you have it. The Pope's given his unofficial and yet influential opinion about the Mediatrix of all graces. She's not a goddess, and she's not a co-redeemer. So that about wraps it up where he stands on that issue. Okay, but notice how he did it. It's just another example of that flowing language that just sounds good. It just, you know, but wow, what an impact that's going to have on the whole situation. In that, he killed two birds with one stone. He killed the minimalist view and the maximalist view. Okay. As I see it. So I don't think this is going to be a topic of discussion that Francis is going to engage in the rest of his pontificate, if I may be so bold to presume. All right, so that's it with that. Now, look, I covered that in a half an hour, and I got the rest of the time for questions. So, all right. So, Tom O'Brien, I just happened to see that first here, Tom, so we're going to go to you. You made a statement. It says, magic is evil. The father of all lies is Satan. The first lie was Lucifer thinking he could be as the Most High, and found out pride comes before a fall. But the first sin was envy, which preceded it. Okay, and what does that have to do with magic, Tom? Okay, you made a statement, magic is evil, and then you went off on a tangent about Satan being the father of lies, and the first lie, and this and that, and pride, and all that kind of stuff. So how are you amalgamating the two to say that magic is evil? Okay, that's what magic is lies. Is it? You and the audience, or say you're the magician in the audience, they both know it's just an illusion. So why is it a lie? A lie is a statement you make that is totally untrue about the truth. Okay, magic is an illusion. The audience and the magician both know. Okay, that's why they come to the theater, to see how good he is at making an illusion. That's it. Okay, we do the same thing in life at different times. Making one thing, you know, we don't want people to know it as a joke, and then we, you know, reveal what the real truth is. you know, at a birthday party, or, and many kind of gatherings we have. It's not serious, Tom. Come on. Now, there may be some magicians who want to engage in some kind of satanic basis for their magic. Yeah, we've always had those people. They're all around. But simple magic that you learn from a book about, escape artists or things of that sort, no, it's not intrinsically evil. Okay. It's just like money. Money's not intrinsically evil, but you can make it evil if you use it in an evil way. Okay. And fire is not evil in itself, but you can make it evil, by burning someone's house down. Or you can make it useful by, putting it in an internal combustion engine so you can drive to work. Okay. So, yeah, I think you ought to be careful about making blanket statements like that. Okay. Yeah, there may be some magicians who like to do that kind of thing. And, but that doesn't mean all magic is a lie. Okay. It's entertainment is what it is. And then Tom comes back and says, the magic trick of theistic evolution. What does that have to do with magic, Tom? Okay. All you're doing is making an analogy. Yeah, I don't believe in theistic evolution either. Okay. And to jump from one stage to another, you could call it magic, you could call it a lie, but you're using magic in that sense in a derogatory fashion, and that's okay. You can do that. But it doesn't make magic itself that we're talking about evil. Okay? All right. All right, question. Some might be interested in you teaching an online class. Are you interested? Topic to be discussed. Obviously, soteriology or Greek may be up your alley. Thoughts? Oh yeah, I just love to do it. It's just the logistical issues involved. I don't know. I guess I'd have to think about it. I'm just getting a lot older and I just have so much work to do right now. And I'm comfortable. Okay. I'll be honest with you. I'm comfortable with the schedule that I have. And I would say this, the thing that would push me to the other side would be, if 50 people signed up for a class, then I would say, okay, there's enough desire here for me to take a second look at this, and it could be on, I've written enough books, 50 books. We could take any one of those books and look into it, from not by faith alone, to Genesis, to the Apocalypse, to how to exegete Scripture, things like that. I'm sure we could find something that everybody would take an interest in. And if I did it, I'm going to go in depth like I go on, my books. But the only thing that would really move me, if 10 people signed up, I'd say, forget it. I don't mean to be crass about it. I just say, no, it's not worth my time to go do all the preparation for just 10 people. Okay. I can think of many other ways to use my time, and I have very little of it to use. I still have 7 children at home to take care of and support. Besides 2 dogs, 1 cat, and 5 fish. Just kidding. So, and my energy is less each year that goes by. So yeah, but if there was enough people, like I'd say, 50 people who were interested, that would definitely turn my head, and I'd take a second look at it, and we could do something. I don't think that's going to happen, to be very honest with you. So, and I don't need to be pessimistic. I'm just, I've lived long enough to know what comes and what goes. So, all right. So let me get to the question here by Zachary. Question: is an individual responsible for committing a sinful act under the influence of sleep? What if it was something you wouldn't have consented to when fully conscious? Well, yeah, there are instances like that. Let's just take the typical example. About a month ago or 2 months ago, I had a bad dream, and I was in a real bad fist fight with some individual who I don't know. I mean, I have no idea who the other guy was, but I was in a fist fight with some, and I used to box, so I know how to fight. I know how to protect myself, and I know how to hurt another individual if I need to. So I was beating this person up, and I was living it out with actual motions of my fist. And my wife was, of course, next to me, and I just missed her head by inches. Okay. And then she was alarmed. She finally woke up, and there I was, ready to pounce on her again, here thinking that I was beating up some man. And I could have killed her. And every once in a while I get in that, stage, and I think it's like when I'm really tired, I just go into this real deep sleep, and who knows what's back in my mind that it's going to conjure up and bring to the forefront. Well, there it was. Okay. And fortunately, I woke up real fast after like the first punch that just missed her, and realized, hey, this is a dream. Stop. And I stopped. But if I could have killed her, I mean, because I knew how hard I was hitting in my dream. I was going to knock the guy out, and that takes a good punch. At any rate, let's say I did kill her. So I would be arrested. I would be put on trial to determine whether I did that fully conscious, or was it indeed a dream that I was having. Now that's going to be hard to prove, but let's say I could prove it, that it was a dream, and that my wife couldn't testify because she's dead, but that's what makes it hard, because she could testify that this has happened to me before, that I've been in that kind of dream state where I'm fighting somebody, and I'm trying to throw a knockout punch, and the knockout punch could kill somebody, but she's not there, she's dead. So it's going to be hard to prove. And but let's say I had a good lawyer, and he figured out a way to have me not convicted of first-degree murder, because the jury could look at me after the defense, after the prosecutor draws this wretched picture of me as this abusive father and husband who doesn't like his cat, and that projects over to other things. And if he doesn't like his cat, what else doesn't he like? Well, he'll draw the worst picture he can of me. And as a matter of fact, I don't like one of my dogs either. And the jury is going to think I am just some scoundrel that's just trying to make excuses to get rid of his wife. Of course, we don't have that much money, so there's nothing for me to inherit. But just so he can go out and get another wife. Who knows what they will think of as my motive. Okay. Now it's the job of the defense attorney to say, come on, people, you're just speculating here. Okay. And the prosecutor's leading you down a wrong path. And that'll show how good I am and all the things that I've done in my life. And, all the friends that I have who can testify for me that I would never do something like that and blah, blah, blah. So now if he gets me off, I will suffer though. Okay. The jury will come back, okay, this is not premeditated, but it is manslaughter. And I will have to suffer the punishment for manslaughter, whatever that is. Okay. The reason I can't get off is because they can't prove that I didn't do it deliberately. Okay. At least a court of law can't. So, because they don't know what's in my head. Unless they can trap me by testimony into admitting, yeah, I did it premeditatedly, they can't prove it, you see. So they're stuck. So if they're stuck, well, and yet they can't prove that I did it deliberately, then the next best thing is, okay, well, you will be punished, you just won't be punished more severely. Okay, so you won't have to go to prison, but you will be on probation and you will have to pay a fine or whatever they come up with as a lesser punishment. Okay. So in that sense, yeah, you could be convicted of a lesser crime if you did something in your sleep. Okay. Now there are other things that happen, like what is it? Was it Leviticus? Talks about nocturnal emissions for a man. Okay. Hey, we've all had those. All right. Let's be honest. And the way that we get to that state is by having a dream. Okay, let's be honest. And so the question would be, well, are you guilty of some kind of immorality because you had a dream of an immorality? And the answer would be no, of course. And then if you had a nocturnal emission because of that, okay, well, what's the prescription in the Old Testament? Because this gives us the principle. Okay, the prescription is, well, you're unclean and you need to be washed and blah, blah, blah. So whereas it's not a crime that you could be convicted of and receive a punishment for, it's still an unclean thing. It's not something that you either want to wish for, desire, encourage, wait for the next time kind of thing. If it's something like that occurs, you want to stop it immediately. Okay. And sometimes you can't, but so it's unclean in the biblical sense. Okay. But you're not going to get punished for it. So in that sense, you're off the hook. Nothing's going to happen to you. There was no sin committed. Okay. As opposed to the other example I gave you. Okay. So whereas a general rule would be that, no, you're not going to be convicted of sin or a crime in your dream state. Okay. That's the general rule. There would be exceptions to that rule, depending on what actually happened. Okay. And that wouldn't be severe as doing it, premeditatively, of course, but you may suffer repercussions because of that. It's just the nature of life. Okay. Just the nature of life. And nothing we can do about it because you can't control your dreams. That's true, of course. Okay. All right. All right, question. Is an individual, okay, you got that. All right. Question. Father Rippiger says gay people are possessed by demons. I can see it. They are taking the mickey out of God. I'm over it. All right, so you got me confused here, Melissa. Appreciate your question, but I'm just a little confused. All right, so we got this one thing. Gay people are possessed by demons. And I don't know what the Mickey out of God is. So, and I don't know what I'm over it is. So I try to figure out what your question is. You made some statements, but I don't see a question. So let me just comment on your statement. If Father Rippinger says that gay people are possessed, then, I hold him in high authority on this very area. And if that's what he says, I would consider it highly as the truth. Okay. I'm not saying that it is definitely 100% the truth, but he is one of the authorities I would look to for at least a qualified opinion on that subject. So now what we do know is, let's just put it this way. When the Bible talks about demon possession, it doesn't attach it to sin, believe it or not. Demon possession in the New Testament, at least, is, like the demon, his name was Legion in Mark chapter 5. And he's got so many demons in him, and he cuts himself, and he has chains around him, and nobody will go near him, and he's yelling and moaning all over the place. And it's your typical demon-possessed person that you would normally think of as demon-possessed in Mark chapter 5. Okay? And he has so many demons that when they're finally taken out of him by Jesus, and they're talking to Jesus, you are the Son of God, what are you going to do with us? And then finally, the demons come out of him, and they go into the pigs. 2,000 pigs go over the cliff and commit suicide or kill themselves by going over the cliff, and they're demon possessed. Okay. But as far as, adultery, sexual sins, homosexuality, lesbianism, alcoholism, or any other kind, the Bible doesn't say, oh, that's caused by demons. Okay. You may be demon possessed at the same time that you're committing those sins. Okay. But if you're looking for scriptural evidence that says a homosexual is demon possessed, you won't find it. What you will find is, say, Paul's discussion in Romans 1, where he says the homosexual person knows he's doing wrong, and he refuses to leave that sin. And so God leads him further into the sin. Another way, God takes the restraint away, so to speak, and allows him to go full flung into the sin, however deep it goes. I don't know. But, and he says that 3 times in Romans chapter 1, that he allowed them to go deeper into the sin as a punishment for their sin. Now, that's between God and the homosexual. There's nothing there about demons. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to say is, if you're looking for that in the Bible, you're not going to find it. If we but what I would say is what I just said before, which is that doesn't mean that demons aren't involved. Okay. They could very well be involved. And this is where Father Rippinger's expertise comes into play, where he can fill in the gaps, so to speak, that Scripture does not give detail to. Okay. So that's as far as I'll take it. Okay. So, all right. Katie Yee says, hey, I want to thank you for your view on masks. I find myself much less apprehensive. Well, that's good to know, Katie. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I tried my best last night to get right to the heart of the issue. And, you know what? Church is really bad today, but we're going to make it worse if we start disobeying the priests, the bishops, on simple little things. Okay, that's not what God's looking for. We may think we're being such heroes and defying them, but in those areas where our obedience is applicable to the situation, we're not being holy at all if we defy them. Okay. So that's the point I tried to get across. And let's do everything we can to make it peaceful, make it easier in this difficult time. COVID's not easy, but there are things everybody can do to make it easier until this thing just passes away and goes into oblivion. It's going to take a little time, but let's be patient and try our best. Okay. All right. Question. What do you think happened to the Ark of the Covenant? Will the Jews make another one if they build another temple? Will there be a third temple? Well, all good questions there. We don't know what happened to the Ark. I would very much believe that it does not exist anymore, just like a lot of things in ancient Israel don't exist anymore. The temple was destroyed several times. All the things that it had were melted down, the gold, silver, bronze, whatever. The Ark would have no use for anybody. So I don't see that surviving. I know there's been all these stories, it's in Ethiopia taken care of by the black Levites who are Jews and all that kind of stuff. I've heard the stories. Okay. So, but you're asking my opinion. My opinion is it did not survive. If anything, God would want to destroy it because it represented ancient Israel, and that covenant's over. Okay. There may be people who consider it relics. Yeah, but it's a relic of a religion that doesn't exist and will never exist. So in the spiritual sense, it has little value. Maybe in the earthly sense, it has a lot of value because there's only one Ark of the Covenant. And I'm sure it's worth billions of dollars if somebody could find it. But I don't think so. That's my opinion. Okay. Will the Jews make another one if they build another temple? They're going to try. If they're going to build a temple, all this talk we hear about the third temple, of course they're going to lavish this thing with everything that the Bible and the Talmud say. Okay, they're going to make it legit to the hilt. No holds barred, I would say. And as the rumors have said, they're gathering all the material to make the third temple. And if my interpretation of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4 is correct, that's why Paul used the word temple. Could he used another word? But he said the man of sin will sit in the temple. And what better place for the man of sin to sit than in the temple that is rebuilt by the Jews who are lost and hate Jesus Christ, to have the man of sin who's going to say that he is just like Jesus Christ and he is going to rule the world as Jesus should have done but couldn't do, and he's here to make everything better. The second Jesus is what he's going to portray himself to be. And what better place to go than in Israel, where they're going to build a temple for him, and wow, everything looks legit, doesn't it? So there you have it. That's definitely a possibility, and I see everything pointing in that direction. Okay. All right, so question, are we headed towards a 38th antipope? Well, yes, there have been that many, believe it or not. I don't think David's number is off. Actually, I thought there were 40, But, you might be right at 38. Yeah, we could be headed. It's curious that all those Antipopes, most of them anyway, I think like 80, 90% of them came in one period of time in the Middle Ages, the first part of the second millennium. And it's like, where are all these Antipopes coming from? And after that, there weren't many at all, hardly. I mean, maybe one. Before that, there weren't that many. So it's like, what was it that was going on in the first part of the Middle Ages where these Antipopes started coming like gangbusters? But David's question is not historical, it's more futuristic. And David, I don't know how bad it's going to get. I know it's bad now, but it could get a lot worse. And, look, it's got to end sometime. I mean, I would be very surprised if the Lord has planned another 1,000 years for this universe. I would be very surprised if that was the case. The way I see it, you had 2,000 years before Adam and Noah, and then the flood came. Then you had another 2,000 years from Abraham to Jesus, and you got Jesus in the year 2021, and that's another 2,000 years. So it's like, if we pay attention to the history, it looks like this is the time where the 2,000 years is going to come to an end. Maybe, it could be 2050. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that if you watch the patterns that have been developed by God in the scripture, this is, we're close. We're real close. And whether we'll have an antipope, I think at this point, David, it's going to be the antichrist, not antipope. I think all things are leading to that. And, I was shocked when we did the study of the prophecy of La Salette, because if you join Melanie's prophecy and her brother's, then you come out with the Antichrist being right around the corner. Could be 2030, 2040, 2050, but we're close. We're real close. And that's if all those things are true. If they all add up and you give them the, not the best interpretation, but you give them the widest interpretation possible, it would point to a very close future for that. All right, question, Zachary. Question 2. What are your thoughts on incorruptible saints? Are these really miracles? Why do these occurrences seem inconsistent, considering some are preserved while others aren't? Well, that's all in God's thoughts there, Zachary. I mean, he knows the hearts of every man, every woman, every child. Okay. And if perchance Saint Bernadette was as pure as people say she was, God knows that, and he knows exactly how pure she was, barring the fact that she was not immaculately conceived. I mean, this woman was, from everything we read about her, she was pure as Snow White. I mean, so yeah, I mean, if God's going to make the body incorruptible based on the holiness of the saint, she's one of the best candidates. And no surprise there that when you go to Nevers, France, you see her body there. Their hands are covered with wax, but underneath the wax, it's human flesh. And her face is like she just woke up, in the morning, and she's fresh as a daisy. It's uncanny, and it's been there for 150 years. So it's hard to argue with, Zachary. Hard to argue with. You see it right in front of you. And then that's verified by other incorruptible saints. So it's not like she's the only one, in the sense that maybe if they were trying to fool somebody, they could get some expert people in there to make her look like she's still, fresh. That's a possibility. But then you got them all over the world. Okay. Some more incorruptible than others, of course, as you mentioned. But the testimony of it throughout the world is hard to not believe. Okay. And I just wonder why people aren't lined up outside of Nevers, France, to view the body of Saint Bernadette. Maybe they're scared to go because they'll face reality like, wow, Christianity is true. I just saw an incorruptible body that's 150 years old. Wow. And then of course you got the miraculous Eucharistic miracles, where you have actual flesh that was turned from a host into flesh, and it's always what? AB plus blood type. Everywhere in the world, it's the same blood type. Wow. So, yeah, I believe those things are true. I have no reason to believe they're not true. And it just shows that God does still work miracles from time to time. Okay. To special people, of course, but they're there. Question, Katie says, are Cain and Abel twins? We don't think so. You don't think so. There's no reason to believe that they're twins, in other words. Okay. No evidence to that. All right. Question, with regard to the Great Reset, have you heard about the push towards transhumanism? What are your thoughts on it? Oh yeah, they've been trying this for a long time, and they want to be able to create life just like God does. You see, as much as they hate God, they want to mimic him, because in their hearts they know he exists. Okay, but they'll deny him on the surface, but they'll copy everything that he does. And so if they can somehow create life, whether it's part robot, part human, or you grow the tissues in a petri dish, and then like stem cells, or if you could do it like you do with stem cells and make a human being, wow, they think they're gods. So yeah, this has been the quest for a long time. Of course, God, the real God, called it out of nothing, and that's why we call it ex nihilo, out of nothing, and called it into being. These guys use the parts that God has already made, which is what the devil always does, use the parts that God's already made to fashion it the way they want it to be. And of course, that's their limitations. But yeah, man has no other place to go. Okay, that's exactly where he is headed. And he is going to do whatever it takes to get there. He's got the money, the talent, the materials, the inventions, the desire. It's all there to make himself look like God and use the material parts that he has in this earth to do so. It's inevitable. Okay. All right. Okay. Question, why is sedevacantism so appealing? It seems to be misinterpreting what traditionalist means, like Arius did. What are your thoughts on this? I don't know if it's that appealing, David. To some people, it's appealing, but to the vast majority, I don't think it's that appealing. Because once you go in that direction, you're on your own. Okay? You're basically saying that you are now the authority, the Pope, the bishops, it's over. They are not my authority. And you're on your own. That's a scary place to be. I mean, you must wake up in the morning, every morning, and pinch yourself to make sure that you made the right decision, because, wow, you're outside the church. Whatever you think the church is, you're outside of it. And that's not appealing to a lot of people. That's like being in outer space and not being able to get back to Earth. Okay, yeah, you're existing, but in some kind of vacuum out there that you have to manufacture everything now yourself. You're away from Mother Earth. Yeah, so in that sense, I don't think it's appealing. To those who are in it, I think what's appealing is they were never going to buckle under authority in the first place. And they think that in order to be under authority, the authority has to be absolutely perfect. And that ain't the case. This is the flaw in their thinking. That in order for them to legitimately be under the authority of someone, then that authority has to be perfect in every way. And if he's not, then that's an excuse that you don't have to come under that authority. That's the flaw in their thinking. Okay. And it's the flaw in a lot of people's thinking, as we saw last night with dealing with this mask thing. They think they have the right that, first of all, they think that it's not a privilege to go into church. It's their right because it's their church when it's not. And then they have the right to disobey anything that bishop says or priest says if they don't like it. Okay. Now, these are people who don't want to come under authority. They don't know what it means to be Catholic. Okay. When you sign off as a Catholic, you're signing a statement that says, I will follow what the Catholic Church believes, and I will be obedient to my superiors. And you don't have to be a cleric in order to do that. You can be a parishioner, and you're still under the same jurisdiction. Okay? But a lot of people just don't like that. That's why we have Protestants today. That's why the Eastern Orthodox split off, because they didn't want to obey the Pope. See, a lot of times it just comes down to authority. Okay? So that's what's appealing to those who are in it. All right, question. Do you think you could create another graphic like the ones displaying your title and website, starting all questions in the chat must start with question? All other comments are ignored. Well, I don't exactly ignore all their comments there, Rockstar. But I do ask that you put question. And a lot of people don't put question. I mean, I can beg for them to do that every week, and there's going to be some that don't do it. So, but I'm not going to purposely not answer their question because they don't do it. I'm just saying, look, it just helps me if you do it this way. Okay. So, see, there's a difference between law and mercy, which I just demonstrated. Okay. Thomas says, I just read that 2/3 of Catholics say Biden should be able to receive communion. Pew Research. Doesn't surprise me a bit. There's another Pew Research that says 2/3 of Catholics don't believe the Eucharist is actually the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. So it doesn't surprise me why they think Biden should receive it. Okay, to them, it's just a piece of symbolic bread. Yeah, Catholics, believe it or not. So, question, this was posed to me, how would you respond? If a homosexual said they felt God made a mistake with them, and so they do not want to live anymore, because how could God make a mistake? Well, let's put it this way. God allowed certain things to come into being. Like in Exodus chapter 3, when Moses is discussing with him. Moses is, I have a speech impediment. I can't be your spokesman. And God said, what did God say? Did I not make the blind, the lame, the deaf, the dumb? It is I, the Lord. Okay? Which means God has a purpose for each and every individual, whether they be handicapped, severely handicapped, partially, a superior intellect, a retard, or anything in between. God has a purpose for each of them. And sometimes that purpose is to shake the normal people out of their boots, showing them something abnormal and say, yeah, that could have been you. Okay? So let me show you this abnormality so that you don't become proud of your intelligence or your beauty or your this or that, because it was all given to you. Okay? And you are nothing yourself. So let this deaf, dumb, whatever, retarded person serve as a good sign to you not to get proud, because that's how you're going to fall. Okay. That's how they say Lucifer fell. He got proud of his beauty, his intelligence, everything that God gave him that he never deserved to get. But God did it to, give glory to God through the Lucifer. But he got proud of everything he had. Okay. So that's why God makes abnormalities or allows them to occur in the human race. Okay. Because basically we're all sinful. And these things help us to bring us to our senses. So, no. What you could be is an example of a homosexual who knows that it's wrong. And though you may have these tendencies, you do everything in your power. And you show the power of God that you're able to thwart all these nasty tendencies you see in yourself. Okay. And those of us that aren't homosexual, that are heterosexual, what do you think we do? You think it's just all hunky-dory for us? That all we have to do is say, oh, that's wrong. I'm not going to go in that direction. You think that's the way it works? No. We struggle just like you do, although in the opposite vein. Okay? Every day of my life. And I know other guys every day of their lives, if they're going to be honest with themselves. Okay? Yeah, we all struggle with those sins. Whether it's heterosexual, opposite sex, or same sex. Okay? Yeah. This is what Adam and Eve gave to us. This is what Paul talks about in Romans chapter 7. And he says, thanks be to God, Jesus Christ, and save me from this. So you're not a mistake. The mistake is thinking that you're a mistake. No, you're an example of a person who has these sinful tendencies and fights them to the bitter end to show that God is more powerful than the devil, more powerful than sin and death. Okay? That's the way to look at it. That's the reality. All right. How is your New Testament commentary coming along? Hoping to buy it as soon as it becomes available. Yeah, well, it's coming along really well. I'm still working on the first volume, believe it or not. But the second volume is all done. I just sent a note to my bishop today, as a matter of fact, asking how the progress is coming along with his review. So hope to hear from him shortly. The other one, it's going to take about the rest of this year, I think, to complete that one. But the second volume will be out and available. And that's 675 pages long. So that'll keep you occupied till the first volume comes out. Definitely. Now, what I'd like to know is from people is, a lot of my books are on a 6x9 frame, 6 inches by 9 inches. So like, about this size. That's 6x9. Okay. Now, other ones are, some of them are on an 8.5 by 11 frame. So that's like, the size of a piece of paper with a cover around it and everything. So it's bigger. Okay, right now that Bible is in the 8.5 by 11 frame. And it's in 2 columns on each page. So that keeps the page count down, because I have to keep it down to 800 pages, 800 or less. But some people like the 6 by 9 frame, and if that is the case, then I would have to put the second volume into 2 6 by 9 volumes. And I could make the font a little bigger. Right now in the 8.5 by 11 frame, the font is 10-point font for the Bible verses, and then for the commentary, which is in the footnotes, it's an 11-point font. And that's pretty easy to read. In the, say we did a 6 by 9 frame, that would be in 2 volumes, but I could put the font 1 step higher for both the Bible verses and the commentary. So the commentary would have 12-point font, which is, of course, a lot easier to read. And the Bible verses would have 11-point font. Okay. So if you're interested, and let me know your opinion, I would love to know your opinion on that possibility. The first volume, I believe, will only require 1 volume, whether it's 8.5 by 11 or 6 by 9 frame. It'll just come right up to, 700 pages or so. So we could do it that way. So I don't know. What do you guys like? Do you like the 8.5 by 11 in 2 columns, or do you like the 6 by 9 with 1 column? I could do either one. Right now, that's in the 8.5 by 11, because that seemed to be the most convenient. But some people don't like to hold those big 8.5 by 11s. Okay. Most of the books you see back there are all like 5 by 8 or 6 by 9. And the other ones, the big ones, they're a little bulky. 8.5 by 11 is a little bulky. And it's a lot easier to hold a 6 by 9, even if it has a lot of pages to it. Okay. So could go that way. So you guys give me your opinions, and you can either put them here, or you can send them to my email address at sungenis@aol.com. Okay. All right. So David asks how long the commentary. Well, I just said that on the 8.5 by 11 frame, it's 675 pages, all the books from Romans to Revelation. And then the first volume will be Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and the book of Acts. All right, question. This is Will. Do you plan to teach at the Collegium? No, do not plan to teach there. Which reminds me, where is my advertisement for the Collegium? I haven't advertised them in a while. And what did I do with my cards? Anyway, so the Collegium, what did I do with those? I was just thinking about putting things in a safe place. I can never remember where the safe place is. Anyway, so the Collegium is a new college that's going to start in Hagerstown, Maryland, which is just a stone's throw from where I live. And you can get more information on that from, well, I don't have his email address. So let me do this. The good thing about this college is it's a traditional, or what you might call classical, Catholic education. And it's $16,800 per year. Room, board, and education. So can't beat that. So look into it. Look, and the way you would write to them, it would be www.the the-collegium.com. Okay? the-collegium.com. Or it might be .org. Is it .org? Try them both. Ed is his name, and Ed will be more than happy to give you information. They're going to start in September. So, and they need about 30 to begin, and they're getting close to that. So if you're interested at all or know anybody else who might be, contact them. All right, question. 3 questions from Zachary. I understand you don't utilize many private rev or the shroud and private revelations or the shroud and apologetics. How about Eucharistic miracles? Yeah, I just answered that question, so you have my thoughts on that. Now, it's not like I'm against private revelation. I'm just very cautious about private revelations, okay? If they're approved by the church, I don't have a problem. It's just the ones that everybody seems to flock to are the ones that aren't approved by the church, and that's, where you're going to get some problems, like Medjugorje, Garabandal, all those, and there's, many more. All right, last night you mentioned heavy metal might not be the best to listen to, but would be open to some awesome Christian heavy metal. But would you be open? There are some great bands out there. I wouldn't be open to them myself, okay? And again, I'm just giving you my opinion. Heavy metal, I mean, you're going to have to draw the line somewhere. And if I were to teach my kid, okay, no, I'm not saying that necessarily applies to you, but if my kid, 17 years old, still under my roof, comes up to me and says, Dad, what do you think of heavy metal Christian rock music? Is it okay to listen to? Well, what do you think my answer is going to be? I'm going to say no. Okay? Because there is a point you reach where the method of giving the music is as important as the message in the music. Because, come on, let's be honest, by the method you give the music, you're giving a message. Okay? I mean, Led Zeppelin is not going to be using barbershop quartet to get their lyrics across, are they? No. The whole reason why they have the appeal that they do is because they use hard rock to get their devilish message across. The two go hand in hand, like hand in glove. So, yeah, you've got to reach that point where, I would say, you would say great bands out there. Yeah, I mean, if we were to have a contest of who has the best heavy metal group, I'm sure someone would come in first and someone would come in last. Okay, because you can measure them based on the product that they produce, whether you like the product or not. Okay, yeah, I'm sure there's great musicians out there that are probably heavy metal, but that doesn't make it right. Okay. I think we know enough, we have enough intuition about music to know when the line has been crossed. Okay, I'll just leave it to you. That it's just like the guy, the Supreme Court Justice, who said, I can't define obscenity, but I know it when I see it. Okay? It's pretty much what it is with music. I can't define the line for you, but I pretty much know when I hear it whether it's going to be good or bad. Okay? All right. Question. What are the chances of a split in the American Catholic Church? Tell us your reasons why, yes or no. Oh, I think it's always been, the chances are above 50%. Been that way for a long time. And I think it gets worse every year. Okay. Especially with these issues of homosexuality coming to the fore. If there's anything that's going to break the church, it's that. Okay. So yeah, the Richter scale on the chances, the vibrations are increasing. And I'd say the Richter scale is upwards there of, above 3 and 4, tending toward 5 and 6. All right. Question: is it a scandal that the Pope does not come out clearly and state that priests like Father James Martin are promoting heresy and sin? Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, Joe. In the opening of the program. Everybody's doing their little dance. And, okay. Question: do you think you could create another? Okay, you already asked that one. Good point there, Lawrence. Movies are a lie then. Very great. See, I taught him everything he knows, and he's able to spit things out like that just off the cuff. He's gotten so good. All right, question: have you and Rob Skiba spoken at all since your debate on flat Earth? No, have not heard a word from those guys. Not one word, and that's been what? Almost 3 years? Whew. Yep. They want nothing to do with me because I told them the earth isn't flat. All right. Question: what are your thoughts on which Pharaoh is being spoken about historically in Exodus with Moses? I know there are some new theories called Roll's New Chronology. Have you studied this? No, I have not studied Roll's New Chronology. And you are making me do more research there, Joe. I don't want to be out of the loop on these things. I was into that very heavy years ago, and I knew the different pharaohs that were possibilities. And oh gosh, what was the pharaoh I came up with? Thutmose comes to my mind. Thutmose the third, but I don't know if that's correct. It's been too long so I can't give you an answer on that. I'm sorry, but thank you for the reference on Roll's chronology. I will look that up tomorrow. Prepaid 50 students, no refunds. There you go. See, he's been with me for so long, he can read my mind. He knows exactly what I would have said or should have said. Thank you, Lawrence. Now his address there is Pack Islander for life. I never knew what he's been using that for 20 years. I never knew what that meant. I don't know what a Pack Islander for life is. Maybe he can explain it to me, but that's who it is I'm talking about here. He's like a son to me. He's been with me for so long, and he even knows. He even can complete my sentences. All right, question: is it okay to eat alligator on Friday during Lent? I ask because a few years back, a priest I knew made some and shared it at a party on Friday during Lent. I guess it's okay there, Rockstar. I mean, if you're not eating regular meat, alligator, I guess, would be a good substitute. So, yeah. Who am I to judge? Joe says, have Ferrara or Salza commented on your new Fatima book? No. Received no comments from them. Other people, yes, have commented, but not from them. I sent video about masking to friend. Her response compares to transgender males saying we'd refer as him. Despite that's a lie by fitting in, doing what's easy is lying. Priest is forcing friend to sin in her own eyes. No, that is not wrong. That is not correct. You're not sinning by putting on a mask. It's neutral territory, for Pete's sake. Okay? It's amazing how people can twist things like that. All right, people, I have to go. It's 9:30. I'm going to copy down the rest of your questions. Maybe I can get to them next week, but I have to go. So it's been nice, and I appreciate all your participation and love your questions, and hope I have helped you this week, as always. And if you would, give me some opinions about whether you'd like a 6x9 or 8.5x11 for the new commentary that's coming out. That would be great. Oh, okay. So Pacific Islander. Okay, I get it. All right. Now I know. Now I know. All right, people. Be with you next week. Take care. God bless you.